On the latest No Different from Adam podcast, we talk with former Cowboys quarterback and Fox TV analyst Troy Aikman about his Super Bowl preparations as a player and as a broadcaster. And it's hard to imagine that he's actually now broadcasting more Super Bowls than he's played in.
What's up, First Take fam? Thank you so much for hanging with us on a Tuesday. We will be live in Houston for Super Bowl 51 tomorrow. Can't wait to see you all down there at Lucky's Pub, February 1st through Friday, February 3rd. We're going to have special guests, giveaways, doors open 7:30 a.m. local time. Come pack the house. But right now, LeBron James fires back at Charles Barkley for his repeated criticism of the king. Does Sir Charles owe him an apology? Why is Tom Brady the most polarizing player in the NFL right now? This one's going to be heated. And Darren Woodson returns to First Take for the first time since the Cowboys were eliminated in the playoffs to explain what happened to America's team. Let's get it started. Hello, everybody. Welcome into First Take on a Tuesday. Thank you so much for hanging with us. Molly Karam here solo in Bristol. Stephen A. is already down at the site of the Super Bowl in H-Town. Max is in his hometown, NYC. Gentlemen, good morning.
What's up? Good morning. How you doing, Molly?
I'm good, and I'm hyped for today's show. Just heard that tease, Stephen A. We got a lot to get into.
Yes, we do.
This is going to be good.
It is.
This is going to be good.
It is. Let's do it, gentlemen. We tip things off with the latest on the King James Sir Charles trash talk. Here is Barkley last week reacting to LeBron publicly stating the Cavs need another playmaker.
LeBron James' comments were blank.
Inappropriate, whiny, all the above. The Cleveland Cavaliers, they have given him everything he wanted. They have the highest payroll in NBA history. He wanted J.R. Smith last summer. They paid him. He wanted Shumpert last summer. They bought in Kyle Korver. He's the best player in the world. Does he want all the good players? He don't want to compete. He is an amazing player. But this notion, they're the defending champs. And for him to be trying to hold anything over Dan Gilbert's head, and I love all these wild punk-ass reporters on television who's afraid to call out LeBron. LeBron's a great player and a great guy. It just pisses me off that a guy that great don't want to compete.
All right, so here's where it gets really good. After hearing the TNT analyst call him whiny, James decided he has had enough with Barkley's jabs over the years. James clapped back, telling our Dave McMenamin this, quote, he's a hater. What makes what he says credible? Because he's on TV? I'm not going to let him disrespect my legacy like that. I'm not the one who threw somebody through a window. I never spit on a kid. I never had unpaid debt in Las Vegas. I never said I'm not a role model. I never showed up to All-Star Weekend on Sunday because I was in Vegas all weekend partying. All I've done for my entire career is represent the NBA the right way. 14 years, never got in trouble, respected the game. Print that. I collect one paycheck from this. There's the owner, Griff's, the GM, I'm the player. Screw Charles Barkley. Paging Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A., talk to me.
Well, this is bad. There's no question about it. And both sides have points. In the case of Charles Barkley, LeBron James looks very, very wrong because he crossed the line. LeBron James got personal. Bringing up Vegas, potential debt from Vegas, and bringing up stuff with the kids and throwing somebody through a window and all of that other stuff. LeBron James was being criticized about something involving basketball, and he definitely went beyond the pale as far as I'm concerned. I think he crossed the line with how personal he got with Charles Barkley. He definitely crossed the line in that regard. You just don't do that. You don't bring up the kind of stuff that he brought up about Charles Barkley just because you don't like what he's saying about you. That's my initial reaction. But when you dig deeper towards it, you do have to understand if you're Charles Barkley. When you call somebody whiny, when in the past you basically called them a punk, when you question their competitive fervor and what have you, all bets are off in that regard as well, because those people are going to interpret it as you taking personal shots at them, which is why LeBron James brought up the word legacy. And then when you think about what he closed with, Max Kellerman, when he says he's the owner, I'm the player, screw Charles Barkley, he was talking about, quotes about Tristan Thompson, J.R. Smith, and others in terms of what Barkley was alluding to. Cleveland has given him everything that he's wanted, et cetera, and how LeBron wanted this or LeBron wanted that. When, in fact, Rich Paul, who represents a J.R. Smith, who represents a Tristan Thompson, who's had to fight for those contracts to get those dudes their money, They're looking at it from the standpoint that if LeBron got everything he wanted, he would not have had to complain the way that he's complained periodically over the last 2.5 years that he's basically been back in Cleveland. He's had to complain because he hasn't gotten the things that he wanted. So to imply that he just gets everything that he wants, that he's the one running the show, they took offense to it. So, again, it's one of those situations. I think that LeBron James got a bit too personal. I think it was a bit excessive. I think he was wrong for doing that. But at the same time, if a cat's going to come at you and question your character in that fashion, you do have a right to stand up and defend yourself by any means necessary. I don't really think that there's a wrong party here, but I do think that it's gone a bit too far, particularly with some of the personal stuff that LeBron James brought up, because there were certainly things on the basketball court that LeBron James could easily attack about Barkley, because Barkley doesn't have the basketball resume that LeBron has. LeBron did not have to go to that point. Now all bets are off, because we don't know what the hell Barkley is going to say, and Barkley obviously could say a lot, particularly if he gets personal. LeBron may not know what Barkley knows about him. Very dangerous game.
My reaction is LeBron left Charles Barkley in flames. I mean, he left him in flames. And there's some kind of joy that people get, or glee that people take, in the critic getting criticized in a way that just leaves them in flames. And so my initial reaction is like, oh, snap, you see what LeBron said about Barkley? Oh, he got him. Here's the difference. Charles Barkley, because he gives you the straight dope, even if you think he's a dope at times, he doesn't bite his tongue, is maybe the most popular critic on TV, period. He gets paid a lot of money to give you his opinion, the unvarnished truth as he sees it, precisely because he won't bite his tongue. Now, LeBron doesn't get paid to do that. Doesn't mean he can't offer his opinion on Charles Barkley or anything he chooses. And he makes valid points, in fact. But LeBron here is making ad hominem attacks, meaning he's attacking Charles Barkley personally because he doesn't like what Charles Barkley is saying. There's an expression, don't murder the messenger. He's murdering the messenger. I don't know. And people, Shaq even does this with Barkley on the air sometimes. Shaq was a greater player than Barkley, more championships, etc. And sometimes Shaq, in the argument, whether Shaq is winning or losing, and those guys are amazing on TV together, it's an incredible show, but Shaq will sometimes just pull that trump card. He'll pull that card out and say, how many basically, I've won championships, I'm a greater player, you should stop talking. Stephen A., you and me didn't win any championships in the NBA, but we criticize these guys. I mean, the job of a critic in the media is to tell you what they see, is to look with a critical eye and tell you what they see. And their own background may be pointed out by the targets of their criticism at times to kind of undercut their credibility, but that doesn't change what they're saying. I would have been more convinced by LeBron's arguments if he would have gone at what the content of what Barkley said instead of impugning Barkley's character.
Well, you got to remember something. First of all, understand something. LeBron James is not going to come at people like us because we truly do have a job to do. And in my case, I've been a journalist for over 24 years. And so, it's a different ball game. But it's almost, and you'll appreciate what I'm about to say, Max, it almost harkens back to what Mike Tyson said years ago when he was talking to our very own Jeremy Schaap. He said, he was actually talking about black people in this regard. He said, I can understand you coming at me. He said, but somebody that shares my culture and my experiences, they should know better. Well, it's the same principle when you have a LeBron talking about Barkley. LeBron may not say that about a member of the media. He never has. But when you look at Barkley, he's like, wait a minute, you're a player. You played in this game. You tried to achieve what I have achieved. You wanted championships. I've gotten 3 of them. You went to 1 NBA Finals. I've been to 7 of them. I've got 4 league MVP honors. You have 1. Your resume doesn't compare to mine while you took up this challenge. Who the hell are you to say anything? LeBron is right about that. But it doesn't absolve LeBron from crossing the line that he crossed when he got so personal.
Why is LeBron right about that? Because when you give Barkley's resume, all that says he's more credible than the rest of us when we talk about LeBron. Is the only person who can criticize LeBron James Michael Jordan because he was better than LeBron? Kareem is the only guy who, along with Michael, can criticize LeBron?
That's not what I'm saying. Understand my point. I'm saying LeBron and any other player is going to treat a player as
differently than a pure
differently than they would treat a reporter. That's my only point.
Sometimes when I've been critical of an athlete and they reach out or we talk about it, I sometimes refer them or send them the critic in the arena, the Teddy Roosevelt speech, where he talked about critics and how the man in the arena, it's called. And in fact, LeBron has cited the man in the arena, where Teddy Roosevelt was saying, look, forget about the critic, who, former president of the United States, one of our great presidents on Mount Rushmore, forget about the critic who spends his life criticizing the deeds of others. It's the man in the arena, in the theater of action, basically, who, whether he wins or loses, has given his best effort actually in the doing. So you have to recognize that yes, there's something about the timid soul of the critic that the athlete may resent, especially when the critic is a former athlete who himself should be more sympathetic to what the athlete is going through. But that's part of what makes Charles Barkley so interesting and so excellent on TV. He went through those experiences, and he tells you exactly how he sees it anyway. He doesn't hold back out of sympathy for anyone. He just tells you the truth as he sees it. That's what makes him a valuable critic on TV and entertaining.
Stephen
and you're going to hear stuff you don't like if you're an athlete he's talking about sometimes.
But before we move on, I have a quick question for you. Does any part of you feel that LeBron now made it personal, that this could actually quiet Charles Barkley because he doesn't want it to continue to get more personal and get uglier?
Not at all.
Okay.
Barkley is not going to be quiet. Barkley is going to have something to say. Barkley is not going to back down because at his core, Barkley believes he's right from the standpoint that all I'm talking about is basketball. I've said LeBron James is a great player. I said he's a champion. I said he's a great guy. But I criticized him about this basketball matter. And the thing about it is LeBron has every right to respond. But when you bring up Vegas, when you bring up the spit incident, when you bring up throwing somebody through a glass window, when you bring up representing the NBA in such a way, that's where it gets a bit dangerous because Barkley may elect not to go but so far. Remember, they're both Nike guys. Lynn Murray, I mean, this guy is connected with Nike. Both of them love him dearly and what have you. For all we know, Barkley, Barkley's just doing Barkley and that's it. But because LeBron was so acerbic and got personal, it is now at the discretion of Charles Barkley to respond and reciprocate in any fashion that he likes, and that is where it could potentially get dicey. And I hope it doesn't go to that point.
By the way, I don't think we can quite just say that all Barkley was doing was talking about basketball, because one of the things that makes sports interesting, particularly on the level at which LeBron James plays, is there's something about it that makes us believe, I think for good reason, that it illuminates character. That in the moment of truth, what is this guy about? What is this athlete about? And when Barkley talks about being whiny or not being competitive, there's no way for LeBron not to take that in some way as I'm laying it all out there in front of everybody, kind of bearing my soul in the theater of competition. And when you discuss things like competitive spirit or me being whiny, how can I not take that personally? Because it speaks to my character. And I would say that's the cost of doing business. That's kind of a hazard of the occupation on LeBron James's level, is that people will, for good reason, take the outcome of the events. That includes what team you choose to play for and how you play in crunch time and all those things as revealing somehow your character. You're going to take that personally sometimes.
So Pandora's box now open. We'll all be waiting to hear Barkley's response. But Stephen A., do you think Charles owes LeBron an apology?
No, he does not, because he was talking about basketball. You have a situation where, again, if you're saying whiny, if you're saying he doesn't want to compete, I think Charles Barkley was wrong for saying he doesn't want to compete. But if that's how he feels, damn it, that's how he feels. And it was clearly about basketball. It wasn't about anything else. So Max can sit up there and say what he says, and I get where you're coming from. But the flip side to it is the direct quotes oozing out of Charles Barkley's mouth were directly correlated to basketball. Now, LeBron may have every right to respond and retaliate the way that he did because he has to sit back and take so much, and he has bitten his tongue on many occasions for over a decade. But if you listen or read the quotes that came from LeBron and you compare that to what Barkley said, Barkley was talking about LeBron James and his basketball credentials and basketball. LeBron went far beyond that. And again, that's unfortunate. That's not something I think anybody should do if they can help it. That's all I'm saying.
Charles Barkley does not owe LeBron James an apology, and maybe LeBron doesn't owe Barkley one either, although if either one owes the other an apology, I suppose it's Charles Barkley. I suppose it's LeBron James, maybe a Freudian slip, that LeBron went at him, tried to murder the messenger. I don't like the message, so I'm going to go at the character of the person who's giving the message. But I want to say this about the real argument they're having. Look, there's a difference between LeBron seeking more help and Kevin Durant joining the Warriors. And the difference is related to the fact that Charles Barkley never won a championship. See, if Charles Barkley, and toward the end of his career, he tried to link up with Olajuwon and Drexler and win it, overcome Jordan that way, couldn't do it. You know why? Because none of them were Jordan. Jordan was the number one guy. And LeBron is the number one guy. So everyone else, by a lot, by the way, just as Jordan was number one by a lot. So everyone else needs to join forces and keep stacking the talent higher and higher and higher to see if they can overcome LeBron. But there is something to this idea that if you're LeBron James, you're the one they have to overcome. Oh, now Michael Jordan is seeking more and more and more help. And that's like a conversation LeBron and Barkley can realistically have. LeBron can say, okay, Chuck, you did it your way and didn't really look to join a super team toward the end of your career. How many chips you got? And Barkley could go back at him. Yeah, you got chips, but in a sense, as I say, reverse engineered these chips. You said, oh, chips mean you're great, therefore I will now construct a team where I can't not win a championship or two or three, and therefore that means I'm great. And that speaks to the nature of what championships prove and the kind of character that basketball players, according to the received wisdom, are supposed to have in terms of their competitiveness. That's a legitimate conversation for Barkley and LeBron to have. This conversation, I can see why LeBron took it personally and went back at Barkley. If anyone owes anyone an apology, it's in fact LeBron, not Barkley. LeBron owes it to Barkley, not vice versa.
Well, listen, the bottom line is this. I ain't gonna lie to you. I don't want to see an apology. As far as I'm concerned, let's get it on.
Neither do I.
I mean, we don't have to.
Neither do I.
You don't have to get into verbal warfare or anything like that. But LeBron saying what he said, Barkley saying what he said. As far as I'm concerned, if they hug, sing kumbaya to one another, it'll come across as phony and orchestrated. I don't want to see that. I want to see LeBron sit up there in the midst of all of this turmoil and go out there and ball. He admittedly acknowledges, or rather, that the Cleveland Cavaliers have looked like straight garbage since the new year has begun. They have not looked good at all. They've been getting blown out. They've been losing the mediocre teams. And as far as I'm concerned, a lot of this vitriol and all of this other stuff that comes with it can be a product of them recognizing that they have no shot of beating Golden State unless changes occur. It could be fair Golden State that's igniting all of this. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to is this. You feel the way that you feel. Look, everybody doesn't have to approve of everything everybody says. If that's how LeBron feels, that's how he feels. If that's how Barkley feels, that's how they feel.
And by the way,
man up, hold your position, and be done with it.
By the way, the most important thing here that I take away from all this, to your point, Stephen A., about going at Golden State and LeBron asserting himself somehow, LeBron said there's a new sheriff in town. LeBron got criticized and clapped back hard. And I saw some of this come out against Golden State in the finals last year. I saw some comments by LeBron in the press leading up to it. And then what he did to Steph, blocking the shot, screaming on him, all that stuff. There's some psychological intimidation. It's a part of the maturity of LeBron James and his imposing himself and insisting on his dominance in the league. I think it's good for him. I think it shows one of the greatest players ever in full bloom in his maturity. And that's really the headline to me here. LeBron said there's a new sheriff in town, and he clapped back hard.
All right. Sir Charles, your move. What you got?
Hold, Molly, hold on. This is big.
Okay.
Remember, just a few days ago, we talked about how players didn't vote for LeBron, as embarrassing as it was, how players didn't vote for LeBron to be an all-star, over 128 of them. I think you pay attention to that because even though they're ignorant for not doing so, it speaks to how some around the league may dislike him. And that may be one of the reasons why Barkley said what he said.
Fair enough. First Take is on the road at Super Bowl 51 starting tomorrow. Catch us live in Houston Wednesday through Friday. We are going to be at Lucky's Pub downtown on St. Emmanuel Street. A ton of special guests. T.I., Deion Sanders, Brandon Marshall, Antonio Brown, so many more. Doors open 7:30 a.m. local. Show starts at 9 a.m. local. Pack the house. We want to see you all down there in H-Town. Speaking of the Super Bowl, Tom Brady's legacy has always been a topic of debate, having so much success on the field, but it hasn't come without controversy. Take a listen to what he said yesterday about his legacy at Media Day.
I really don't, because that was never the reason why I ever wanted to play this game, is to be the best. I mean, that wasn't why I play football. I play football because I just love playing and with my teammates. I think the most important thing for me is to doing the very best that I can every time I take the field. I'm very fortunate to be on this team, and we've had so many great opportunities to be in this game. I mean, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that I've had 7 chances at. I mean, that's pretty crazy. I know that winning the game is a hell of a lot better than losing this game, because I've had some of the longest nights of my life after these losses, and, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure it's a win.
According to a new poll taken last week and released Monday by Public Policy Polling, Brady is clearly the most polarizing quarterback in the league. Listen to this. So Brady's the most popular quarterback amongst fans, 22%. We're a little fickle here, people, but he's also the least popular, 24%. Also, the New England Patriots were voted the most disliked team in the NFL. And I found a friend. Look who's here, Will Kane.
I'm glad somebody could keep you company
Thank
today.
you, and it's always good to see you. Thank you, thank you. I want to start with you, Stephen A., though. Why is Brady the most hated?
Well, he's a part of the New England Patriots, who are an organization perceived by some as cheaters. Certainly not me. I consider them winners, and my attitude has always been, hey, if they're so great at doing something and you got a problem with it, why can't you learn to emulate it? They're doing something right, and I'm going to give them credit where credit is due. 10 AFC championship games in the Tom Brady era, 7 Super Bowl appearances now, 4 Super Bowl titles. I'm sorry, give me a break. I don't want to hear that from anybody, but you have people who look at them and they look at the organization under the stewardship of Bill Belichick, and they question their legitimacy because of Spygate, most recently Deflategate, et cetera, et cetera. That's point number 1. Point number 2, Brady's loyalty to Bill Belichick. Number 3, because Bill Belichick, while some people might malign him, also recognizes greatness, they consider him a beneficiary of that greatness, because throughout your tenure, your entire NFL career, you've played for one man who happens to be the best. So they find themselves asking, what if you were in Aaron Rodgers' situation? What if you had played for several different coaches like Peyton Manning did, Tony Dungy and Jim Caldwell and John Fox and Gary Kubiak, and the list goes on and on. You've been in an ideal situation, so there's an excuse for people to question the legitimacy of Tom Brady. I do not, but it does explain where that quote unquote hatred comes from, because that's usually where it breeds from, to be quite honest with you, when people are able to point to those kind of things to find a way to diminish the greatness that you put on display.
I think all those things are legitimate and they feed into it, but if you ask why are people hating on Tom Brady, what's the big picture? And Stephen A., this will surprise you, but the reason is simply he's the GOAT. He's the greatest of all time, and heavy lies the head that wears the crown. That's how it goes. When you are the greatest ever and you are still active, people hate. But a lot of people love, too. That's why he's supposedly polarizing. The cheating and everything's Spygate, Deflategate, and the fact that he's associated with the Patriots, just the branding isn't good for him, of course. But you know what I noticed? When Peyton Manning was still playing not that long ago and before the real decline, where he was clearly not under pressure, which is why Brady's greater, but in every other instance, regular season, let's call him the greatest regular season player ever, Peyton Manning, by far. Like, it wasn't close. No one around the league in the regular season be like, yeah, Brady's better than Peyton, because he wasn't in the regular season. He gets that extra credit for the playoffs, and that's a lot Belichick, and that goes to your point. But when Peyton was on top, I didn't notice this kind of hate for Brady, because I noticed a little more hating on Peyton, to tell you the truth, by many, because he was perceived as the best. Now Peyton's gone. There's, Aaron Rodgers is better, but he doesn't have the resume or anything like that. Brady is almost the undisputed greatest football player ever, certainly quarterback. Look at the resume. And so he attracts attention and therefore some hatred. People hate on the greatest. It happened to Michael Jordan. It happened to Muhammad Ali when they were still at their best. This is how it goes.
I don't know,
it's
Max.
actually compliment to Brady.
Yeah, I don't remember any kind of hatred like this towards Michael Jordan. I don't remember any type of hatred like this towards Peyton Manning. I'm not saying it didn't exist, but certainly not to this extent. See, I think, honestly, both of you are addressing sort of the Christmas decorations on the Christmas tree. Yes, accusations of cheating feed into reasons that people might not like Brady. Certainly being a winner over a long period of time makes many people dislike you. But the truth is, they already disliked you by the time they got to those things. So here's what I think the honest truth is. People dislike Tom Brady because most of us down deep are very weak. Most of us are unsatisfied with our own failings in life, of our overinflated sense of what our own expectations were for ourselves. And Tom Brady reminds us of that. I don't mean to get too psychological or psychoanalytical here, but that's the God's honest truth. Tom Brady is a constant reminder of your own failings. He's got, as you've pointed out, Stephen A., he's got the perfect wife. He's got the money. He's a positive person. He's won, yes. Everything about him reminds you constantly, he's better than you. He's a better guy than you are. That is truthfully what, and by the way, here's the main problem. It's not just that he's great. It's how he's done it. It's that he's the 6th round draft pick. It's that he's self-made greatness. That's the one form of greatness we can't forgive. We're fine setting up this incredible, athlete on a pedestal who we know down deep we could never have been. But this guy who tried hard against all odds, who wakes up early, who is a Nazi about his diet, who every choice he makes reinforces the bad choices that you make, the things you didn't do right today. Everything you didn't do right, Tom Brady did. He's a constant reminder, and his success is a constant reminder that you could have done better if you had simply done, I'm not saying you would have been a 4-time Super Bowl champion, but you could have done better if you made the same sacrifices Tom Brady did, and we cannot forgive you for that.
That's an interesting thought, and it's logically consistent. But I don't know that people look at Brady, and that's actually the process going on.
No, it's down deep, Max. It's down deep in the weakness. It's not rationalized. It's guttural.
I lost it. I don't know.
Right. It's intuitive. When people, it's the blink test. They blink and they don't like, because it holds up a mirror to their own failings. I think it's an interesting point. But I don't know that it actually, and that may explain if you perceive him as more hated than Peyton Manning or some others, and you want to discount Deflategate and Spygate, and the Belichick influence, as Stephen A. pointed out, maybe you can point to that. I think the big picture is the best who ever did it, or the greatest of all time, when he's still on top. Because don't forget, he's also the most loved. Has this effect on people, usually in all sports.
Will Kane, I think you've been hanging out with Max a little bit too long. You're trying to go deeper than necessary. But it's understandable, because Max can do that. Max can do that to people sometimes. Here's the deal. It's really not necessary to go that deep. I'll put it in more simplistic terms for you. The fact that you've had Belichick your entire career is enough of a reason for people to be envious of Tom Brady. Because what happens is you have the benefit of a great coach who's great with his system, that somehow, some way is able to maximize the potential of all those around him. And as a result, has elevated himself to such a level of greatness that when you find yourself not being the beneficiary of such components, it does vex you, because you find yourself literally looking at that situation and saying, I couldn't be that. If I had that coach, if I had that system, if I had those players, I couldn't pull that off. And I think they look at it from that perspective, not to mention the fact that at one point in time, people had such an affection for Tom Brady to such a degree, and to some degree they still do, that no matter what circumstances he found himself under, whether he was losing AFC championship games to Peyton Manning or being associated with Spygate or Deflategate or whatever the case may be, you have people that look at it and say, folks are eager to give him a pass that they wouldn't give to other people. Those are components that can't be ignored either, Will.
Yeah, but okay, so I'm not saying that you hold this. You're attributing that point of view to many people. It's a really dumb point of view if they hold that. It's really, really dumb because what it ignores is it makes Tom Brady into a system quarterback that's been the beneficiary of Bill Belichick and his system, as though you could put anybody in that system and they would achieve the same level or at least some close to similar level of success. And it discounts all the things that Tom Brady does on a daily basis, not the miracle throw that Aaron Rodgers throws, but what he does on a daily basis that makes that system work. See, that's my point. People don't really like what it takes to be successful. They don't want to pass up the donut. They don't want to check their ego. They don't want to never be late to a meeting. They don't want to hold everybody accountable. So when they see someone do all that, they've got to explain it away as though that's just a system that's allowing that guy to do that. Well, contrary to what Max Kellerman constantly says, you put Aaron Rodgers in that system,
they'd be better.
I don't think he makes I don't think he makes all the same choices. I don't think he does all the same sacrifices that Brady does.
I think it's a good point to develop it or articulate it further. I could, if you want to call him a system quarterback, some of that system is kind of an adherence to a really puritanical work ethic, and that's part of the system that he's incorporated. Right, and I think that's a good point. Nevertheless, people recognize, just as who is he overtaking as the greatest quarterback of all time? For many in the modern era, it's Joe Montana. And I think people recognize that as great as Joe Montana was, he was also lucky, much as I talked about Blink a little earlier, like Gladwell would write that, Bill Gates was lucky because circumstances favored what ended up really creating him and his legacy. And that Joe Montana was lucky to have Walsh, and that Brady was lucky to have Belichick, and there were other quarterbacks you could have, and this is, of course, ridiculous because this is not what happened, but you could have given to Walsh or Belichick who would have been even better, but they weren't, and so they're not. But I think people recognize, what if Walsh had Dan Marino? What if Belichick had Aaron Rodgers? I think most people would probably say Rodgers and Marino would be ahead of Brady and Montana. And so there's a sense, I think, rightfully, that they're somewhat lucky.
Well, my issue with what you're saying, more so than anything else, is you're acting as if it's applicable just to Tom Brady. Like when you talk about fans and whoever feels that way having a dumb opinion. Well, even though there's a lot of very, very smart fans out there, there are a few that are not. And they hold these opinions because of their fandom and their haterism, for lack of a better word, their willingness to go that route. But what you're saying is applicable to Tom Brady is applicable to most professional athletes, which is why they're under the microscope that they're under. No. Because people out there who want to hate on them look for any excuse. You act like there's some special circumstance that Tom Brady has to deal with. If there's resentment, it's because it isn't. And the whole, and which we will get into later on in the show, the whole Trump situation with Tom Brady not being probed about that is an example of that, where he doesn't have to go through what other athletes undoubtedly would have had to go through. So let's be clear about that.
But we've established that he's the most disliked quarterback in the NFL, has the highest negative approval rating. And what we're doing is trying to explain why that is. Now this is my final point.
Also the highest positive, Will.
That's both. Right, because people like this, Max, are divisive. And here's my problem with your argument, Max, in the end. You give credit to a guy like Aaron Rodgers for the things he was born with, the arm talent he has, even his own work ethic. But you take away from Tom Brady the unique attributes that he brings. I don't doubt that Aaron Rodgers has a work ethic, but Tom Brady has an out-of-this-world work ethic.
He's the platonic ideal of a quarterback. I get it. In terms of that stuff.
That's what makes Tom Brady different.
And I'm here to tell you, I recognize those qualities in Tom Brady, including the locker room influence, and I'm here to tell you, including all that, Aaron Rodgers is better than him, and it's not hard to tell.
Set aside that debate. can be had in the future, has been had in the past. But
Sure.
what I'm telling you is Tom Brady's special attributes that make him the greatest quarterback of all time, his special attributes that have allowed him to win 4 Super Bowls and appear in 7, his special attributes are the ones you never see. They're the decisions he makes at 5:30 a.m. They're decisions he makes about what he puts in his mouth. And those are the decisions that people hate because they remind us, to bring this full circle, of the ones we haven't made.
I thought you never see them. Wait a minute, I thought you never see those decisions. Why do people hate them? They're not thinking about them.
You see him in the success.
You hear it written about.
You see him with the 7th trip to the Super Bowl.
It comes in when somebody calls him a system quarterback, Max. That's how you see it.
Guys, we got to leave it there. Coming up next, you are staying with us, Will Kane,
Yep.
which I appreciate. Could Greg Hardy be getting another shot in the NFL? He's trying to play in the NFL Spring League. Could he be given another chance? Plus, as expected, Tom Brady was asked about his relationship with the new president, Donald Trump, yesterday at Media Day. Take a listen to how he rejected those questions. We'll react to all of it after the break.
I haven't paid much attention to what's going on.
The country, President Trump, all that's happening and so forth.
You know, like I said, I'm just a positive person, so, you know, I just want the best for everybody.
Hey, it's Bill Gates. Join me on the Fantasy Focused Football Podcast. We briefly recap championship weekend and then look ahead to the game that everybody will be talking about for the next 2 weeks. Super Bowl 51, Patriots, Falcons, probably going to be a whole bunch of points.
Wednesday, you know what it is. It's National Signing Day. We'll have you covered coast to coast for the 12th straight year as the top high school players make their official commitments. Coverage starts at 8 a.m. Eastern on ESPNU, jumps to ESPN2 at noon, and back to the U to wrap up the day at 5. The whole day also streaming live on the apps. Check it out on the go. Tonight on ESPN, we got a Big Ten SEC hoops doubleheader for you at 7 p.m. Eastern. Maryland takes on Ohio State. Then we'll have Georgia facing number 4 Kentucky. In Brent Musburger's final game, doing play-by-play, that is must-see and must-hear. Super Tuesday on ESPN, also streaming live on the apps. And after a night of college hoops, don't miss SportsCenter at night with these two, Bucci and Anderson. They're going to have all the highlights and breakdowns from college hoops, the NBA, and the latest from Super Bowl 51 in H-Town. SportsCenter at night after Super Tuesday hoops, also on ESPN and the apps. Meanwhile, many have come under fire over the past few months for their relationships with now President Donald Trump, and most have declined to explain. However, Patriots owner Robert Kraft decided to break down his loyalty to Trump to the New York Daily News, citing Trump's compassion throughout the time he lost his wife Myra to cancer in 2011. Here's what he had to say. When Myra died, Melania and Donald came up to the funeral in our synagogue. Then they came for Memorial Week to visit with me. Then he called me once a week for the whole year. The most depressing year of my life, when I was down and out, he called me every week to see how I was doing, invited me to things, tried to lift my spirits. He was one of 5 or 6 people that were like that. I remember that. Robert Kraft may be comfortable answering questions about Donald Trump, but his quarterback, not so much.
Did Trump call you? I'm joking. Don't answer that question.
Not you. You're the ones that are not supposed to ask those questions.
What are your thoughts on what's going on in the world right now?
What's going on with the world, Buck?
I'm asking you.
In what sense? I haven't paid much attention to what's going
The
on.
country, President Trump, all that's happening and so forth.
You know, like I said, I'm just a positive person, so, you know, I just want the best for everybody.
So, Max, Robert Kraft answering questions on Trump. Brady is not. Is he getting let off the hook?
No, in this case, Brady's not, because he's about to play in the Super Bowl. He's an athlete not only in midseason, getting ready to play in the ultimate game, and is allowed to focus on that game. After Sunday, we can talk about Brady's position vis-a-vis Trump. Robert Kraft is in a very different position. Yes, you could say he doesn't want to cause a distraction to his team, etc. And the excuse, because you need an excuse at this point for your support of Trump. His excuse is they're close personal friends, and Trump has been there for him, and that's a very good excuse. But history is watching, and Kraft and eventually Brady are going to have some answering to do. When the President of the United States is lying or either doesn't understand the information, and I don't know which is worse, when the executive branch may be publicly defying a federal court order, which is ignoring a check on power, when the position vis-a-vis Russia lines up exactly with the Kremlin's, and there could be business conflicts. You know, these are things that have, in my lifetime, in my memory, have never happened before. This is not usual. There's no equivalency with other administrations we've seen. And it is a critical point in American history. And to pretend it's not, to pretend history is not watching is not true. It is. And people like Robert Kraft do have to answer now. And he has. And he, I think, gave the best possible answer. I still don't think it's good enough. And Brady, who's an athlete about to play in the Super Bowl, does not at this moment. So, no, Brady is at this moment not being let off the hook.
You want it, Stephen A?
Go ahead, Will. Go ahead.
We're trying to decide how to react to Tom Brady's one-week reprieve from answering before the Inquisition on his political views. So he gets a pass this week, but next week, that's the week we'll all drag him out in front of the public and really force his hand.
That's right, Will.
Yeah.
That's right. You're going to pretend that this is not unusual, that bad stuff isn't going on? Do you want to pretend?
I'll tell you what I'm not going to have to pretend about.
Max.
I'm going to tell you what I'm not going to have to pretend about. I'll tell you this. The argument that you forward, and you're not alone, there are many. There are many with blogs, there are many with podiums, there are many with microphones who say similar things to you, reminds me of someone who's never had to win an argument in 8+ years, who's never had to actually engage in a debate, who's never actually had to persuade someone over a very long period of time, because the only possible position you can see at this point is that if somebody disagrees with you, they have an unacceptable position. Not that they're
incorrect,
wrong.
Will. Facts are facts. I'm sorry, you
Max,
can't get away with that.
let him
Facts are
finish.
facts.
Well, finish.
No. I'm not going to let anyone get away with saying facts aren't facts,
Okay,
and
but
everyone's entitled to their own set of facts.
Let him go, Max, and then you can respond.
Let him go. You're right there.
Max,
Let him
here's
speak.
the
Go ahead,
thing,
Will.
man. Here's
Go
the thing. I have afforded you respect on every single debate you've ever established or put forward with me. I would expect the same. And excuses and interruptions and calling to account and holding people accountable in front of the public as though you need to flog them for their political views, to me, Max, I'm going to be quite honest here, are the ultimate height of weakness. If you have an argument...
This is not political, Will. This is common decency.
If you have an argument... If you have an argument with Tom Brady, if you have an argument with Robert Kraft, if you have an argument with Donald Trump, make your argument. Make your argument before the public. Persuade them. But this inquisition that you're on, not just you, I don't mean to be, this is not targeted at Max Kellerman because it's much bigger than that. But this inquisition of anyone that disagrees with you and suggesting that they are so far beyond the pale. And I guess I need to make this clear one more time. This isn't even something I don't think I disagree with you on, Max.
Sure.
But I have a larger point to make. And that is that you need to open yourself up to actually having an argument to ever win one. You will continue to lose. You will lose it here with me today. Yes, you will lose it with me today. You will lose it in elections. You will lose your principle. You will lose your position because you're not actually facing up to the debate.
Lost the argument.
You're not facing up to the debate. What you're doing is you're dragging public figures out and saying we must expose them for anything they disagree with me on. You're doing it over and over, and once they speak, we interrupt, we shame, we shout down.
Well, wait.
You don't persuade.
I will let you continue. I just want to.
I'm done.
We have never seen, ever, in American politics in our lifetime, an administration continually come up with their own set of facts. You know, that has been investigated and are uncontroversial, and then insist, no, those facts aren't true. These facts are true.
Max.
And this is an authoritarian, from the authoritarian playbook, you create fatigue with people because the media has this case of, as you know, on the other hand. So here's one position. On the other hand, let's consider this. But if the facts are continually generated from I don't know where, but are clearly untrue and disprovable, and we continually pay attention to them as though there are two sides of the argument because there are two sets of facts, we miss the point. This is a unique case. This has not happened before. And so when someone is continually caught either lying or misunderstanding simple facts, and people say, whoa, wait a minute, this is not normal, and then people, well, let's hear it out. Well, what you're going to be hearing out is one side clinging to facts that don't exist, and the other side actually offering facts.
Look,
don't pretend this has happened before in our politics.
I want to let Stephen A. in, but I just want to make this point, Max. If what you say is true, it both heightens the need for you to persuade people to your side and secondarily should make it easy for you to do so. Not drag the quarterback of the New England Patriots out and chastise him for his potential disagreement with you.
Is that what happened throughout the Western world right now? That the populists are the angry populists who make up their facts, the authoritarians are losing the argument, or are they winning the argument precisely because of the tactics that I just described?
I've had it. I've had it. No, enough. I've had it. I'm done. Here's the deal. Couple of things that we want to mention. Number one, the only reason I believe that Tom Brady should be asked about Trump is because anybody else would have been asked about it. When he returned from the suspension, when he had a game on a day that it was the second debate between Hillary Rodham Clinton and Trump, in the immediate aftermath of the tapes coming out, because of his support and his known friendship with Trump. I think that anybody else would have been asked, how do you explain this, or how do you feel about your friendship now, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's it. Outside of that, that's the only reason. I just believe that anybody else would have been asked about it. That's why Tom Brady should be asked about it. But to your point, Will,
yes,
he should be left alone. They all should be left alone. They should have a right to their feelings, their beliefs, et cetera, and be done with it. Here, Max is, and Max, I'm sorry, I got to get on you about this because I just can't take it anymore. You need to understand. Everyone doesn't understand what you understand. They're not paying attention to that. You trying to tell me that it's beyond the pale, it's beyond the realm of comprehension that Brady may have absolutely, positively no knowledge whatsoever about policy, about politics. He may not care. He just played golf with the guy. That's what he's thinking. You treat people as if they're just rife with knowledge about every little intricate political detail like yourself. And
I want to respond to that when you're done, Stephen A.
I'm not finished. I'm not finished. They don't feel that way. If a Max Kellerman twin was friends to Trump, then I would understand your position. But the fact of the matter is there's plenty of people out there that are not thinking about things as in-depth, as intellectual, as informed, and beyond as you. And when you sit up here and Will is getting into a debate with you, what you're not appreciating is the fact that people are not looking at it your way because they're not paying attention to the degree that you paid attention to. You just spouted off a whole bunch of facts that even I did not know because even I did not pay attention to it, and I happen to like politics. So it's not beyond the realm of comprehension that Brady is just preparing himself for a Super Bowl or was preparing himself for football games, or Mr. Kraft sits up there and this man is renowned. He's a phenomenal owner. He's about football and business, and this man called him after his wife died every week for a year. And you said, hey,
I gave a good explanation.
That's not good enough. Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's a good explanation.
That's not acceptable.
No, that's good enough to support the man, but not the politics. That's good enough to support the man, but not.
But he's not supporting the politics.
It's a little confusing to me.
He's supporting the man because the man supported him when
on a
his wife
personal
died.
level, that's fine. On a personal level, that's fine. But
Exactly,
when he's president of the United States, people.
But that's all he
fine
said,
on a personal
Max.
level. This is a little confusing to me.
He didn't bring up anything about politics. He said the man is personal.
On the one hand,
he said the man is personal. He has a personal relationship with the man based on that.
Stephen A., on the one hand, Will Cain accuses me on this show and has accused me of essentially elitism, right? Like, this is the problem with the elite. You don't understand what's really going on. You're condescending to people, etc. On the other hand, you're accusing me of talking over people's heads. You have to dumb it down to explain to people. People aren't paying attention. Which one is it? Well, is it that I'm condescending, or is it that I should dumb it down? I don't understand. I think the best policy when you comment on matters such as these is to look at the facts and explain what's going on. And if other people have positions that support or are against, and by the way, at this point in this country with what's going on, I don't think ignorance is an excuse for anybody. And if people have a position that either is for or against Trump and his administration, I'm sorry. It's not about dumbing it down or condescending. It's about giving you the straight dope.
Okay, Max, just to be clear, for our personal relationship, anytime I've accused you of elitism, it's mostly been tongue-in-cheek. I mean, I hold no negative opinion for you in that light. What I have accused you of, though, is essentially suggesting that debate is beneath you on these issues, that disagreement is beneath you on these issues, that you don't need to engage with these issues. I don't hold Stephen A.'s opinion that somehow you are incredibly more informed than every single of the 63 million people that disagree with you. I think you're very informed.
I didn't say that.
I
didn't say that, Will.
You said people that aren't as informed as Max, and therefore he talks above them on this. But
No, Will.
Okay, I apologize if I mischaracterized.
Folks as if everybody's informed, and some people are not. Mr. Kraft is about his personal relationship with the guy. He ain't thinking politics. Brady is the same thing. That's all I'm trying to say. They may not be paying attention the way Max is, and Max is accusing them of doing so. That's my issue.
I just don't think, Max, to be clear, my only criticism of you, and I think in this respect you are symbolic of many involved in this debate right now, is to act like debate is not needed, is to act like persuasion is not needed, to act like engagement is beneath you. It's that the facts are so clear and the positions are so obvious that all you have to do is surround yourself with people that agree with you and put microphones in front of your faces, and that should solve the problem.
We have to go to break.
You're right.
Max,
Persuasion is needed.
Go.
Persuasion is needed. Debate is not beneath me. But the acceptance of facts as facts and the rejection of fiction as fiction must be. That is the prerequisite to have an honest debate, and that's not what's going on right now.
We need to leave it there. Intense,
and I must insist that it is what
debate
happens
right here. I appreciate all of your perspectives. We got to move on, and let's get back to sports. How about it? Coming up, has Greg Hardy run out of chances in the NFL? We'll discuss how him and some other NFL outcasts might be getting another shot. Plus, Darren Woodson is finally making his return to First Take, set for the first time since Aaron Rodgers did this to the Cowboys. Remember how Stephen A. called him out? Will we see you after Sunday regardless?
Absolutely.
Regardless.
Absolutely.
Win or lose.
No, listen.
We'll see you next week.
51-yard field goal attempt. Snap. Placement. Kick to the upright. It is right down. It is good. And the Packers are going to the NFC Championship game.
And the Cowboys season has come to an end.
First Take is on the road at Super Bowl 51 starting tomorrow. Stephen A. is already down there. Catch us live in Houston Wednesday through Friday. We're at Lucky's Pub downtown on St. Emmanuel Street. A ton of special guests, including T.I. Tip will be in the house, Primetime Deion Sanders, Brandon Marshall, Antonio Brown, just to name a few. Doors open 7:30 a.m. local time. Show starts at 9 a.m. local. Pack the house. We want to see you down there in H-Town. Welcome back into First Take. Thank you so much for hanging with us. We appreciate you. We got into a lot of ground on the first hour, but we've still got another 60 minutes ahead. Stephen A., what you hot on for hour number 2?
Well, you know I'm hot. I mean, the Barkley, LeBron James situation is just stirring up. It's gaining even more momentum in the days, the minutes, the hours that have passed. I'm telling you that right now. I'm going to do a final take and bring into consideration something I don't think anybody has thought about. But not before I get on my man Darren Woodson. You know that former Cowboy with their pathetic selves. He was hiding. He's been hiding. He's not hiding today. I finally caught up with him. All I got to say is First Take. Kick my music, please.
Mediocre team and Big D. That's what makes this funny. How about them Cowboys? How about them Cowboys? Some way, somehow, when they count, just wait. They will let you down. The accident, they will mess it up. Just wait. The accident, they will let you down. Just wait. The accident, the accident, the accident. Waiting and asking, it will happen. Only Romo know the football. Know what's coming next.
Did you enjoy your entrance music? Did you like it? Look who's here, everybody.
About the Cowboys.
Finally, it's nice to see you. You cooled off now. You're over it. Yeah.
What's going on?
I'm
What's going on, bro?
I've moved on. Listen.
What's up, bro? Oh, you're over it. Is that what you just said? You're over it? Is that why I couldn't find you the day after? Is that why I haven't been able to find you for 2 weeks? Is that why yesterday was the first time I saw your face or heard your voice? Is that what I thought we was hanging out for dinner. Listen. I thought we was going to chill out and hang. I mean, you're supposed to be my boy. You're supposed to be my boy.
You never called after the game.
Oh, really? Are you sure about that?
Hey, listen, I carry this all the time.
Excuse me, Darren Woodson, you had your phone off after the Cowboys lost. It went straight to voicemail, and you're lying on national TV. Explain yourself, boy. How about them Cowboys? What's going on? What's going on, bro?
You know, I'm going to be the key after today. Go ahead, take a shot. Where's Max? Max, take a shot.
No.
It's so good.
You would show up.
I want an explanation.
Darren, you would show up in Bristol the day we're on the road.
I was here yesterday.
I want an explanation.
I was here Sunday.
But you wasn't on the show, damn it. You was hiding at the Sports Center studio.
Come on the show, Stephen A.
I understand. I understand. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. I have no recollection of that. Here's the deal, Darren Woodson. I just got a question for you. Would you mind explaining what happened to your Cowboys? Because I haven't really heard an explanation for you as to why you and your pathetic fan base, you delusional dudes that make me want to throw up every time I talk to y'all. I can't understand why I couldn't find you over the last 2 weeks. Would you mind explaining to me what happened to your Cowboys? I just want to know. I just want to know from your words.
Well, what had happened was this. Listen, let's call it what it was. Let's call it what it was. They ran into a buzzsaw in Aaron Rodgers, and let's not forget that the Cowboys' defense has been on the low side most of the years, and they've been covered. Those warts have been covered because their offense has been so dominant. Well, those warts showed in the playoffs, and we saw what Aaron Rodgers was capable of doing. They ended up winning. If the Cowboys would have won that game, they would have ran into another buzzsaw in the Atlanta Falcons. So, listen, there's some work to be done, and I'll admit that absolutely. On the defensive side of the ball, there's some pass rushes, there's some secondary help, but there's work to be done.
Did you just say work needs to be done?
This team,
let's
start right now.
Go ahead,
this team has a bright future, and you know that.
I knew I was going to hear that. You know what, Darren Woodson? Either the Dallas Cowboy fans were hiding, Max. Either the Dallas Cowboy fans were hiding, or the ones that had the courage to show their stinking faces would show up and go like this. You know what? We going to be all right next year. Now, Darren Woodson, you and I go back many, many years.
Way back.
I think it's 21 years and counting that I've been hearing that from Dallas Cowboy fans. Is it 21 or 22 years that I've been
hearing that? You have not been hearing that.
Really?
No, really. You have not been hearing about the future being bright. You have not. Just based off.
I didn't hear that. Hold on, Darren. I didn't hear that from the Cowboys after 2007 when y'all went 13-3.
No.
I didn't hear that after you went 12-4 2 years ago.
No.
Really? I didn't hear that.
Is the difference now that Dak Prescott is a rookie in his rookie season? Is the difference now that Ezekiel Elliott is in his rookie season as well? Is the difference now that this offensive line is still under 27 years old?
Last question.
This team has time. Go ahead, give me another one.
Last question.
Go ahead.
Without bringing up any specifics, you being the polished professional that works for the worldwide leader, you're different. But are you sure that the players that are playing on the team, are you sure they're going to be eligible?
We're doing it, Stephen A.
Are you sure? Are you sure?
Enough.
We're going to move on.
Go ahead, Molly.
And we're going to talk about one of a former Cowboy here. Greg Hardy has submitted an application to play in the Independent League, which will play in April. Stephen A's laugh haunting me here, according to the Associated Press. So the league is designed to give players on the fringe a second shot, or in Hardy's case, his third or fourth. He was indicted on felony cocaine possession charges in Dallas last fall. Other NFL castaways like Johnny Manziel, Ray Rice have also received invites to join the league. Max, do you think Greg Hardy deserves another shot?
Look, I think that America's supposed to be the land of second and third and fourth opportunities, and I don't think that he's necessarily forfeited forever his right to make a living in his chosen profession, especially when, you know, the empirical data shows you he can. He's a good enough football player to play in the NFL, maybe at a very high level going forward. But I don't think it's unreasonable, given his transgressions, given what's already in his past, and given the kind of recidivism of his behavior, if an employer like the Dallas Cowboys says, you know what, I think it would be reasonable for them to say, no, not with us. And if 32 teams say, no, not with us, he doesn't have a job. Of course, when you can ball, someone will usually be a taker almost no matter what's in your past.
I would agree. Listen, I agree with that.
Well,
Max.
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dan.
I agree with what Max just said. Listen, if you can ball, and I think he's determined that when he played with the Cowboys at the end of that season, he could not ball. And that was the big issue was, you know, why take a chance on a guy who's become an average football player? Does he deserve a second chance? Probably a second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth chance. But outside of the Cowboys, no one had any interest. And now that the Cowboys have passed on from him and won't look at him again, I guarantee you 31 other teams are looking at him the same way. The eye in the sky does not lie. Is he the same guy as far as pass rushing? Is he going to be a big-time player for you? No, he's not. Is he going to be an average football player for you? Probably so. So why take the chance?
Well, Well, you know, once again, we get back, Darren Woodson, to the issue of eligibility. I mean, he technically is eligible to play, but because of off-the-field transgressions, which are no laughing matter, obviously, we know we got to wonder about his future. Does he deserve a second chance? I would say no, because he's already had one. And a third chance? No, because he's already had one. And what has he done with it? Knowing that his behavior was an issue, he became too much of a distraction because of how he conducted himself once they put that uniform on him. And as a result, he's shown an inability to exercise control. So to me, the issue with Greg Hardy is not about his talent. I think talent-wise, he could be on any team. The problem is, can you trust him to act right? And that is a huge question mark, as it appears to be with a bevy of Dallas Cowboys for a multitude of reasons, which, Darren Woodson, you're more than qualified to speak on, although I'm sure you would refrain from doing
Hey,
so.
everybody was qualified. Everybody was eligible this year. I don't know what you're talking about, eligibility.
It's all right, Darren. It's all right. I just want you to come on the show. I want to see you, bro.
I know you
want
did.
to say what's up.
I know you want to say.
I want to say love. You know I got nothing but love for you. You know I got nothing but love for you. You know that.
Max,
you know that.
Max, where are you? Max, I have not heard a word from you today, Max. Go ahead, Max. Go ahead, give it to me, Max.
I want to express my heartfelt condolences to my boy Darren Woodson.
I don't believe
love
any
you
of
dearly,
it.
man. You my man. You know that. But I just want you to know, I'm down here in Houston. It's not Dallas. It's Houston. It's right up the road from Dallas.
You know, that's still Cowboy territory.
Cowboy fans,
hey, that's still Cowboy Nation. Don't act like it's not Cowboy Nation.
As long, but are the Cowboys here? I just want to know.
Darren, thank you for being a good sport. I got to put up with them every day.
Oh, my God.
See how I feel, right?
You know what?
And you do have a lot to be optimistic about, right?
I knew this
you
was
got
gonna
Dak,
happen.
you got Zeke, you're
Absolutely,
good.
Molly.
You're
I knew
good.
this was
That's
gonna
what
happen.
I'm telling you. Keep it
but there's a
positive.
chance that Dak and Zeke never win a Super Bowl. You realize that, even behind that offensive
here
line.
we go, Max.
Best team don't always win, even if they are the best
And
team.
Max needs to bring up the Giants, and then all things will be right in the world. Right?
This is coming late.
Hey, Molly.
Yes.
Molly, let me not forget. Molly, let me not forget to tell Darren Woodson, that's you. I'm also down here. I'm looking for Michael Irvin, and I'm looking for Emmitt Smith. I'm looking for both of them. You're not alone.
They're on
You're
your
not
hit
alone.
list.
I'm looking, especially Michael Irvin. I can't wait.
Yeah, why are you guys hiding? You guys won championships.
The playmaker doesn't hide.
we don't hide.
I'm
None
sure
of us
I'll
are gonna
find
hide.
you. Darren, good to see you. We'll see you down in Houston.
Molly.
Thank you. Yes.
Molly, Michael Irvin is down here in Houston hiding behind bushes.
No,
that
he's not.
brother is hiding
He's
from
probably
me.
he's in the gym.
Yes, he is.
I'm not buying it. All right, we got to leave it there.
LeBron James' comments were blank.
Inappropriate, whiny, all the above. The Cleveland Cavaliers, they have given him everything he wanted. They have the highest payroll in NBA history. He wanted J.R. Smith last summer. They paid him. He wanted Shumpert last summer. They bought in Kyle Korver. He's the best player in the world. Does he want all the good players? He don't want to compete. He is an amazing player. But this notion, they're the defending champs. And for him to be trying to hold anything over Dan Gilbert's head, and I love all these wild punk-ass reporters on television who's afraid to call LeBron. LeBron's a great player and a great guy. It just pisses me off that a guy that great don't want to compete.
That was Charles Barkley last week on LeBron James. Now LeBron's decided he's had enough with the Barkley jabs over the years, telling our Dave McMenamin this. He's a hater. What makes what he says credible? Because he's on TV, I'm not going to let him disrespect my legacy like that. I'm not the one who threw somebody through a window. I never spit on a kid. I never had unpaid debt in Las Vegas. I never said, quote, I'm not a role model. I never showed up to All-Star Weekend on Sunday because I was in Vegas all weekend partying. All I've done for my entire career is represent the NBA the right way. 14 years, never got in trouble, respected the game, print that. I collect one paycheck from this. There's the owner, grifts. The GM, I'm the player, screw Charles Barkley. We welcome Will Kane back to the desk. So obviously LeBron not holding back there. What's your reaction?
I just think it's weak. I think LeBron's reaction is weak. You know, it's interesting. No matter how much you compliment LeBron, no matter how much you recognize the obvious state of facts in the world that LeBron James is the greatest basketball player on the face of the planet, he somehow finds a way to be beneath that statement. You know, anytime I've ever criticized LeBron, it's only from the high perch that I place him on. If it's his grammar on Instagram, which I got criticism for, or his language from a victory podium, or in this moment right here, it's only because he is so great that when he falls short of being great, he's wide open to criticism. Let me tell you why this is so weak. First of all, Charles is right from start to finish, and I think almost everyone acknowledges that Charles's words on their face are correct, and they weren't an attack on LeBron at honestly a very deep level at all. He's got the highest payroll in the NBA. They're paying the most in luxury tax, and LeBron James still wants more and more and more. Charles is basically just being honest. And what is LeBron's response? What is his response? It's an ad hominem attack. The weakest form of attack. You know, if there's any theme today, as I've had conversations with you today, Max, if I've had conversations with you, Stephen A., it's this. Have the guts, have the wherewithal, have the spine to stand up and have a position independent of who you are. Don't go after Charles Barkley based upon totally unrelated incidences. It's called ad hominem. And the thing about an ad hominem attack, attacking a person like Charles that's totally off base from the argument at hand, it shows you don't have a leg to stand on. I guess LeBron doesn't have a rebuttal to Charles is they've given you everything they want, that you want. I guess LeBron doesn't have a rebuttal to Charles as you're being whiny. I guess he has no rebuttal on the substance. Instead, he's resorted to the tried and true clarion call. That's happening right now, by the way, on my Twitter. Clarion call of morons and, more than that, weak people who cannot form an idea that can withstand the slightest bit of rebuttal. Attack them as a person. Attack them for something unrelated. Good job, LeBron. You're just like every other internet troll on this.
Go ahead, Max.
As I said when we discussed this in the last hour, yes, it was an ad hominem attack on Charles Barkley. It's, you know, he murdered the messenger. He didn't like the message, so he went after the messenger. But I do think there's an added element here, guys, where there's something about the theater of sports, especially when you're the greatest in the world, that we believe, one of the reasons we're interested in it, I believe, is that we think it reveals character in the moment of truth. And so when you go after someone for their lack of competitiveness, as you see it, or their inability to come through in a big moment, not that that's what Barkley was doing here to LeBron, but he was kind of going after his spirit of competition, I can understand why someone would take that personally and then go after the critic rather than the criticism. But of course it is weak to go after the critic rather than the criticism, and it's a less than optimal response for LeBron. That said, I also think the big story here, the takeaway here is LeBron claps back, and his kind of assertion of dominance, whether or not it's ethically upright or morally upright, his kind of assertion of his own dominance, we saw it in the finals last year, the way he blocked Steph Curry's shot and screamed on him, and he's becoming something of a psychological bully, which actually on the basketball court, I think, helps him. I think it makes him a better player. But it is an ad hominem attack, clearly.
Let me chime in here. Will, let me explain something to you. You're right with what you're saying. LeBron is a bit too sensitive. I do believe, however, in this particular instance, when you parse the words that Barkley used, saying, quote unquote, he was pissed off because LeBron James doesn't want to compete, that was a bit excessive for a guy that's been to 6 consecutive NBA Finals and has won 3 NBA championships, especially coming from an individual in Charles Barkley who is a friend who I love dearly, but pushed his way out of Philadelphia. He didn't want to be there any longer. Ended up in Phoenix and then went to Houston, even though he was older by then and he was on the downside of his career. He tried to move himself into different situations that were more beneficial for him. So it does come across as a bit hypocritical for him to say that. And the words that he used definitely invited a response from LeBron. I believe that LeBron went too far, Will, in what he said about Barkley, because it wasn't about basketball. It was about Barkley the man, and he attacked him in a way that was excessive and was beyond the pale. And as far as I'm concerned, if Barkley wanted to retaliate, it's perfectly within his right to do so. But to really piggyback off of what you said and to touch on what both of your points are, let's keep in mind that LeBron James has been ultra sensitive. Now, he takes more criticism than most, in fairness to him. But he was a bit sensitive when he played like garbage in the fourth quarter of 4 consecutive NBA Finals games against the Dallas Mavericks. He took heat from that. He still has never gotten over that, still holds that to people, against people to this very day. Also, I would like to say that LeBron assists in inviting some of the criticism because he always takes the high road. It's very rare, if ever, that he responds. And so he gives the impression, if you're Barkley, that you can come at him. So it was really nice, even though we disagree with how far he went, it was really nice to see LeBron step up, man up, and take a public stance, as opposed to coming across, dare I say, as a bit too phony at times and a bit too PC, because he's so interested in his brand that he doesn't want to take on critics who criticize him when he is more than qualified and more than competent enough to respond to those criticisms. And it was nice to see him step up and do it.
And we love Barkley. I mean, Barkley's amazing because he gives you the straight dope. As I mentioned in the previous hour, whether or not you think he's a dope for some of the things he said, he gives you the straight dope. You know he's not going to hold back. He's not going to bite his tongue. He's not going to succumb to kind of social and political pressure about what he should say. And LeBron's not going to like it all the time. He did choke away 4 consecutive fourth quarters. He was a choker then. It was an historic choke. He also came up huge in these last finals and turned around his legacy in that respect. Those things are all true. Barkley should react, on the evidence, whatever comes up.
Well, in the end, that's
one
the choice.
Real quick thing, Will.
Go ahead, Will.
One real quick thing. But LeBron James in his 14th season, Barkley joined the Rockets with Olajuwon and Drexler in his 13th season.
The thing about that,
chronologically older, but younger in his NBA
The thing
career.
about that, Max, is the choice that LeBron made was ultimately the weak choice, but we can all understand how he gets there. Max, I know you get stuff on a daily basis that attacks you as a person. I do, I can promise you. And Stephen A., I imagine you get more than any of us combined. But you make a choice constantly. How are you going to engage with this or not engage with it? And if it is, as you said, Stephen A., that Barkley overstepped his bounds, that the argument was easy for LeBron to debate, he should have just taken on those merits, because if it's an easy one to win, you don't have to attack the person. But apparently LeBron didn't think he could win the argument.
There. No, we agree there.
And by the way, Will, you can make the right
LeBron
choice.
Clearly went too far, no doubt.
You can make the right choice on your timeline for 5, 10 straight years and not respond to any of the morons. And then one day, one of the morons says something stupid and you write moron, and then you're in the wrong, right? Even though a million times you didn't do that.
Max, I'm about to do it 100 times. The minute I walk off this set, I'm going to do it like 100 times.
Both of you, everybody
LeBron
put your phone
has bitten
down.
his tongue this whole time.
You know what Herm Edwards says, don't
Max,
click send.
Can I say this real quick?
Yes.
Max, you know I respect you, right? Seriously.
Yes, of course.
We disagree with you. We disagree with each other on a lot. And Stephen A., this goes without saying. But I think you're an incredibly smart guy who's often wrong.
Likewise.
See, it's business. It's not personal. But LeBron made it personal, and we
You're entitled to your opinion.
We wait for the clapback. But this just in, guys. League sources told ESPN that the Cavaliers are hosting a free agent workout session Wednesday. Veteran point guards Mario Chalmers, Kirk Heinrich, along with shooting guard Lance Stevenson, are scheduled to work out for the Cleveland Cavaliers in hopes of inking a deal. Coming up next, you just saw him, Rex Ryan was relieved from his head coaching duties earlier this season, and now he's saying some wild stuff about the Bills and if he'd be willing to take a defensive coordinator position. And Michael Vick has been a Falcons fan's favorite for a very long time. So if Matt Ice can win the Super Bowl, will he finally get out of Vick's shadow? Stay tuned for that.
Yo, what's up? This is Big Boy, one half of the Mighty Outcast, and you watching the best show right here, First Take on ESPN. GL.
And now, insurance-minded speeches from GEICO.
It's a common expression, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. However, what if the horse's mouth is filled with useful insurance tools? This is the exact case with the GEICO app. Yes, the app is free and therefore a gift horse. However, look inside the app and behold, emergency roadside assistance, digital ID cards, bill pay. Get the GEICO app. Look it in the mouth. Get amazing services. Thank you.
You know what my favorite part about road trips is? Seeing all the fans. And we're going to see you guys tomorrow, Super Bowl 51. We will be in Houston. Catch us live. We're going to be there Wednesday through Friday. We're at Lucky's Pub downtown on St. Emmanuel Street. We got a ton of special guests, T.I., Deion Sanders, Brandon Marshall, Antonio Brown, and many more. Doors open 7:30 a.m. local time. Show starts at 9 a.m. local. Pack the house. We'll see you in H-Town. Rex Ryan has a new gig. He will be joining ESPN's Sunday NFL Countdown this week to preview Super Bowl 51, but hasn't forgotten what happened in Buffalo and isn't sure what the future holds, telling the New York Daily News this. The one thing about being on TV is that you don't lose. You'll remember every damn loss, but the wins, you don't necessarily remember. So it takes a lot out of you. I'm tired of getting expletive. Unless it's a real situation, there's no sense of getting into it again. He also said right now he isn't interested in being a defensive coordinator. Stephen A., what's your reaction?
Well, my reaction is that Rex Ryan clearly is planning for a career in television because unless he's not interested in getting paid, that's really the only job that he's going to have. You'd be an absolute fool to hire him as a head coach. I'm just going to put it out there right now. And I'm not trying to excoriate him or disrespect him. I don't know the man personally. I've interviewed him on several occasions. I'm actually very fond of him and wished for his success. But the reality is the last 6 seasons he has been a head coach in the National Football League. All 6 years he has failed to make the playoffs. And not only has he failed to make the playoffs, but he has never produced better than a 500 record. In the 2 years, remember, when he inherited the Buffalo Bills from Doug Marrone, they had the 4th-ranked defense. They ranked 11th against the rush. The first year Ryan took over, they went to 15th in defense, okay, and ranked like 11th or something against the run. His last year, only his second year, they had the 16th ranked defense. They ranked 29th against the run. This is a man whose signature is defense. Everything that he's done, everything that he's achieved successfully has been predicated on defense, yet somehow, some way, it deteriorated and regressed under his stewardship in Buffalo. This was a defense that had 54 sacks when he arrived. His first year on the job, they had 21 sacks, a 33-point drop. You know, you got Mario Williams, who's the former #1 overall pick, who was a pass rusher. You had him dropping back into coverage, seemingly not knowing what you're doing. You hired your brother, who's another defensive mind, by the way, who stunk up to join his last couple of years in New Orleans, Raiders before that, stuff like that. He goes to Buffalo. You with your brother, you still can't get it done. There's nothing to talk about here. Rex Ryan should be happy and proud if he still recognizes a stout defensive mind. And for him to say that he wouldn't accept the job unless it was a head coaching job because that's the only thing that interests him, to me seems to be an individual that has his head in the clouds because he's not paying attention to the results he failed to produce. That is a fact. It is undisputed. And he should be happy if he got offered a defensive coordinator's job because the team that hires him as their head coach would be absolute fools because his resume doesn't warrant his hiring.
I agree with Stephen A. Stephen A., I agree with you that he sounds as though he's getting ready for a career in television. 3 reasons why he won't be a head coach. 1, he's about a 500 head coach. You hire Rex Ryan, you're going to win about as much as you lose. So it was 6 years he hasn't made the playoffs. Some years he will make the playoffs. Some years he won't. You're going to be about a middle-of-the-pack team usually with Rex Ryan as your coach on average, which you might think for a floundering organization, hey, you can get to 500. That's stability. So that's point 1. But 2, no, it's not stability because he's such a player's coach, it seems, that his teams lack discipline. They seem to be a mess, and it was a mess up there in Buffalo this year. And 3, as information came out. Originally, I thought, you know what, leave him alone. You want stability in Buffalo, but the more you found out, the more you thought this isn't working. And 3, one of the reasons it wasn't working is when the front office says, hey, Rex Ryan, stop playing Tyrod Taylor because his guarantee is going to kick in. And Rex Ryan says, no, I need to make the playoffs to keep my job. He gives us our best chance to win and continues to play him in spite of what the front office says. Now ownership and front offices know, whoa, the guy's not only loses control of the team a little bit, but there won't be a chain of command. I mean, you could argue ethically whether he really should listen to those orders, but nevertheless, that's in the best financial interest of the team, so who's going to hire him? So for those 3 reasons, I doubt he gets another head coaching job, at least not without becoming a defensive coordinator again. And TV pays well, and he's good at it, so there you go.
But, Max, the only point that I would say to you that you're missing in all of this is that, and perhaps it's because outside of politics, you're incredibly kind-hearted. The reality of the situation is clear. You didn't speak to this man's arrogance. You have failed to make the playoffs 6 consecutive years as a head coach. You haven't even produced a 500 record. And you have the unmitigated gall to sit up there with a straight face and talk about what you are and are not interested in, as if somehow you are worthy of more than a defensive coordinator's position. The nerve of this man. And again, I like Rex Ryan, but come on, man.
He's failed to develop a quarterback. The real problem is, in this NFL, you got to develop a quarterback. He's failed to do it. Whether you think that's because he hasn't had the raw material or because he's not good enough at it, that's his problem.
Guys, we got to keep it moving, but we can all collectively agree that he's going to be fantastic on television. Gentlemen, coming up.
We don't know that either.
Stephen A., he's going to be good on TV. We know it. We do.
We don't know. We don't know.
I can't win today. All right, so here's what's going on tonight on ESPN. We've got a Big Ten SEC doubleheader for you. And you know what else we have? We have signing day. That is tomorrow. We'll have you covered from coast to coast for the 12th straight year as the top high school football players make their official commitments. Coverage starts at 8 a.m. Eastern on ESPNU, jumps to ESPN2 at noon, and back to the U to wrap up the day at 5. The whole day also streaming live on Watch ESPN and the ESPN app. And then tonight, I got a little excited. We got a Big Ten SEC doubleheader for you. 7 p.m. Eastern, Maryland faces Ohio State. Then we have Georgia taking on number 4 Kentucky in Brent Musburger's final game, doing play-by-play. Super Tuesday on ESPN, also available on the apps.
The Falcons are ready to rise today. Ryan throws. Jones! Oh, what a grab! Touchdown, Atlanta! Oh, my goodness, another one! End zone, touchdown! Throws, it's caught! They got it! Touchdown! How bad does number 2 want it?
Michael Vick was in prison when the Falcons drafted Matt Ryan with the 3rd overall pick. That was in 2008. But Ryan has never been able to replace Vick in terms of popularity in the city of Atlanta. But that could all change soon, as Matty Ice has been on a roll leading up to his first Super Bowl appearance with 7 pass TDs with 0 interceptions this postseason. The 6 previous quarterbacks to throw at least that many touchdown passes without an INT in a postseason all won the Super Bowl that year and won MVP in the game. Max, with a win, will Ryan finally escape Vic's shadow?
Yes, with a win, he will. With a win, you win a Super Bowl as a great quarterback having a great season. Yes, you will escape the shadow of your predecessor who didn't. However, he has to win because Vic produced a visceral reaction in people, not just in Atlanta, but especially in Atlanta. When you watched Michael Vick, and I remember Merrill Hodge and others, and I thought the same thing, the game against Minnesota where he accelerated and the 2 defenders knocked each other out, you thought maybe you were watching the evolution of the quarterback, a guy who could somehow impose his physical attributes on football, which just doesn't happen from the quarterback position. You thought you were watching maybe a guy like the way I talk about Aaron Rodgers now, but could even be more than that. You didn't know how far it could go, and as it turned out, that was about as good as it got, and it was very good. But it produced in those watching a sense that you're watching something you've never seen before, and the sky's the limit in terms of the potential. So for Matt Ryan, who doesn't produce that kind of excitement, but obviously gets results, he's going to have to win a Super Bowl to overcome it.
Here's the deal. I don't think that it should take that. Would it require it? I'm not so sure anymore because of some of the things that we learned about Michael Vick. And you're talking to a friend and a fan of Michael Vick who's been on this show on several occasions. But the fact of the matter is that if we're being honest, he doesn't deserve to be mentioned in the same breath as Matt Ryan in terms of production. Here's the deal. Here's the deal. Matt Ryan has thrown for over 4,000 yards on at least, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 occasions in his 9-year career in Atlanta. Michael Vick has never done that, ever. Matt Ryan has numerous seasons where he's completed better than 60% of his passes. Michael Vick did that twice. This is the second NFC Championship game, NFC Championship game that Matt Ryan was in, and the first Super Bowl for him. Michael Vick went to 1 and never went to the Super Bowl. And then when we look at it from a talent perspective, Michael Vick could run the football, obviously, significantly better than Matt Ryan. But that's it. Nothing else. And then when we look at things off the field, we look at a guy like Matt Ryan who put forth the due diligence. We have to remember that as much as we love Michael Vick, the person, and the way he's resuscitated his life and his career and just his own humanity, he's a wonderful person. This is a guy that openly admitted that he used to take the playbook and throw it into the trunk of his car. That wasn't, he didn't do any favors to Coach Mora at the time. He didn't do any favors to the Atlanta fan base. So what does that ultimately lend itself towards to? Michael Vick is the favorite and the prodigal son because he's electrifying and he's black. In Atlanta, which is obviously a black haven. Back in the day when Michael Vick was playing, it made up more than 60% of the population. African-American community made up more than 60% of the population in Atlanta. White folks made up about 33%. It's been growing rather. Gentrification has kicked in. It's going to continue to kick in even more. As a result, it will elevate the profile of Matt Ryan. But let's be clear. The popularity comes from Michael Vick being black, being electrifying as a runner, but certainly not, and his excitement personified, but certainly not in terms of his level of production. In terms of his production, he ain't on the same level as Matt Ryan. He just never has.
I agree, but at one point he captured our imagination. Of course, Chocolate City, the whole thing, I get it. Yeah. But at one point, of course, you can't get that exists. But at one point, Michael Vick captured our imaginations in a way differently than Matt Ryan or many others, most others, have ever captured our imagination. The analogy I would use, who had a more distinguished career, Larry Holmes or Mike Tyson, as heavyweight champs? Larry Holmes. But Mike Tyson captured our imagination differently. He's the one who is remembered in popular culture. And I would say that, putting aside racial influences, an athlete who can capture our imagination with his athletic ability that just feels different from everyone else's, he doesn't need to be as accomplished as another guy to be remembered and to be celebrated.
I know we got to go, Max. I just don't find that to be the apt analogy because Larry Holmes was a champion like Mike Tyson. Michael Vick ain't on the same level as Matt Ryan as a quarterback.
Guys, we got to agree to disagree.
He is going to fall off a cliff.
Shut the hell up.
That's not even close to my best.
They're wrong. And I don't give a damn that they agree with me or not. Here's the deal. LeBron James is incredibly frustrated, but it's not for the reasons you believe. Of course, it's obvious that he looks at his Cleveland Cavaliers and he's questioning their commitment to repeating as champions. He's been to 6 NBA finals. He's captured 3 championships. He works tirelessly to be the greatest, and that's what he's about doing. He believes that he's all in. He believes the Cleveland Cavaliers are complacent. That is definitely a source of his frustration, which obviously showcased itself with his diatribe versus Charles Barkley. But make no mistake about it, ladies and gentlemen, that ain't the only thing LeBron James is frustrated about. Want me to tell you why he's really frustrated? Because LeBron James, King James, is scared. Yes, I said it, scared, for very legitimate reasons. It would happen to be the Golden State Warriors. Have you seen these brothers play? Did you see Steph Curry explode against the Clippers for 43 the other night? Have you watched the efficiency and the greatness of Kevin Durant, who is elevating himself before our very eyes better than we all already thought he was? Have you watched Klay Thompson? Have you watched Draymond Green? Have you watched the likes of ZaZa Jr. and others step up to the plate? The Golden State Warriors look absolutely lethal. But more importantly than that, they look like they're not going anywhere. So if they win this year, if they knock LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers off their pedestal, you think it stops here? You think Steph doesn't resign? You think Kevin Durant doesn't resign? You think that they're going to disband and part ways? No, they won't. It will be the beginning of the end of King James. And that is what he is fearful of. That is what this is all about.
Well then, thank you for breaking that down, Stephen A. For more on his final takes, you can check them out on our Facebook and Twitter pages. And don't forget, we're going to be on the road tomorrow. Super Bowl 51 will be in H-Town. So excited. Make sure you come see us at Lucky's Pub downtown on St. Emmanuel Street. Bye, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. Catch First Take weekdays, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific on ESPN.